Morning students, once again we are going to start our new chapter. This is chapter 6 of class 9th and the topic is rocks. As all of us are quite aware that the outermost layer of the earth is called the crust or also called the lithosphere. The word lithosphere stands for rock spheres, means it is comprised of rocks. As the literal meaning of the word lithos is rocks. So, the thickness of the Earth's crust or the rock sphere is about 60 kilometers. That means from the surface of the Earth till you go below up to a depth of 60 kilometers. That does not mean to say 60 kilometers everywhere. Okay? Some places it can be less also, and other places it can be a little more also. But when we take it as an average, it is up to 60 kilometers. Okay, and this layer contains two types of crust. That is the continental crust where we are living, and the oceanic crust. That means in the oceans, every ocean has a base, and that base is also land. So that land. So the oceanic crust will be thinner in comparison to the continental crust, which is rock right from the surface. Right? Okay. So next topic is rocks and minerals. Rocks are minerals make up the crust of the earth, and the hard material of the crust are called rocks, as we have already studied in the last topic. So in scientific terms, rocks include not only hard materials such as granite, marble, sandstone, etc., but also some soft and loose materials as well, like chalk, clay, sand, etc. Okay. Now, the smallest component of the Earth's crust or lithosphere is the element. More than one element of the Earth's crust can form compounds which are known as minerals. And the main minerals grouped are silicates, carbonates, sulfates, metal oxides, etc. Now, when we talk about minerals are a combination of elements which occur naturally in rocks. There are solid and organic substances which have a definite chemical composition. More than 2000 types of minerals have already been identified, but only a few of them are rock forming. Not all of them, only a few. Okay. Now, minerals are useful for plants and animal life on the earth as well. As all of us know that plants require minerals for growth, and even animals require certain kinds of minerals. Because these minerals, they are found in the plants, which are utilized by the animals as well for their nutrition. Okay, a mixture of 2 or 3 minerals can form rocks. That means rocks are formed by a mixture of 2 or 3 minerals. That is why you see we have different rocks which have got the different ores. Okay, and according to the ores we get iron ore, or we get manganese ore, or bauxite ore. That means it depends upon what kind of mineral that rock is made up of. Now, also the types of rocks differ in their mode of occurrence, structure, texture, color, and resistance to various agents of weathering and erosion. Rocks are helpful in dating the age of the earth. That means whenever the historians they go and study about the laccoliths, bacoliths, so these or the old structures like you can say the Gupta Kaleen temples and all that are found. According to that rock, they find out the dates. We feel that how they are finding that this is 2000 years old, this is 2500 years old. It is because of that rock. Because that rock tells the exact time when it was formed. And that is how we come to know that when this structure or when this monument was constructed. Okay, children? Okay, now we talk about the types of rocks. So basically there are 3 types of rocks. Firstly is the igneous rocks, secondly sedimentary rocks, and thirdly is the metamorphic rocks. So when we talk about the igneous rocks, ignis word means, it is derived from the Latin word ignis. Ignis means of thermal origin, that means fire. So basically, as all of us know, that the earth firstly was a hot ball of fire. Okay. Gradually, when the temperature reduced, this crust of the earth cooled down. That means the lava or the magma, this cooled down on the surface of the earth. So obviously, which rocks are formed? Igneous rocks. So igneous rocks were the first rocks to be formed on the earth, and that is why these rocks are also known as the parent rock or the primary rock. Okay. So the main igneous rocks are basalt, granite, dolerite, gabbro, feldspar, pumice, obsidian. These are the basic kinds of igneous rock. Okay. Because all the other rocks later on, why they are called the parent rock? Because all the other rocks are formed by the breaking up of the igneous rocks into sediment. Sedimentary rocks are formed. Later on, when the sedimentary rocks they get compressed under high temperature, metamorphic rocks are formed. Okay, that is why igneous rocks are called the parent rock. Now, if you classify, igneous rocks are further classified into two parts, and they are classified into the extrusive igneous rocks and the intrusive igneous rocks. Extrusive means those rocks which are formed out of the surface of the earth. That means when the volcanic eruption occurs and the lava which comes out of the surface is at sea level and cools down, that is the extrusive. And some lava just below the surface of the earth accumulates and cools down. This is called the intrusive igneous rock. Now, when we talk about the extrusive igneous rocks, these rocks are formed due to the cooling and solidification of hot and molten lava on the surface of the earth, and these are also called the volcanic rocks. These rocks are generally fine-grained, such as basalt. The lava, after reaching the surface of the earth, cools and solidifies quickly. So on cooling, the lava can form polygonal columns, such as the Giant's Causeway in North Island. Okay, so this is an example where this thing, extrusive igneous rock is found. Now, when we talk about the intrusive igneous rock, when the rising magma during the volcanic activity is not able to reach to the surface of the earth, I had told you, which does not come out to the surface. Okay, it remains underground only, solidifies below the surface of the earth, and the rocks thus formed are called the intrusive igneous rock. And the rate of cooling is slow inside the earth. Thus, the rock formed are coarse texture, hard, and have large crystals, just like the granites that we have found. In our Ladakpur city, we find granite mines. And granite mine, how do we get the granite? After digging the earth. That means they have cooled down under the earth. Okay, this is the biggest example that we have in our Ladakpur. Now, the intrusive igneous rocks are further subdivided into plutonic igneous rocks and hyperbasal igneous rocks. Now, the plutonic igneous rocks are formed due to the cooling of magma very deep inside the earth. Remember this, plutonic very deep inside the earth. And the hyperbasals are formed due to the cooling of magma in crack pores, waves. That means earth has certain cracks in the tectonic plates, and when magma rushes into these plates and cool down, those are called the hyperbasal igneous rock. And the most traditional method of classification of the igneous rocks is based on the amount of silicate in it. Okay, so there are two broad categories, like the acidic igneous rocks have more silicate like granite, while the basic igneous rocks have lower silicates, okay, like the gabbro. Fine. Now, we talk about the characteristics of the igneous rock. Every rock have their own characteristics. So, the characteristics of igneous rocks are, the igneous rocks are hard and compact. That means there is no intermolecular spaces between them. Okay. They do not have strata like sedimentary rocks, means they have no base. These rocks are generally granular and crystalline. These rocks are less affected by chemical weathering. They are so hard that chemical weathering has no impact upon them. They do not have fossils or traces of plants and animals. Why? Because they are of lava origin. If any plant or animal comes in contact during the formation time, it will get burnt down to ashes. When metals are melted, obviously what will happen? That's when no fossils are found inside them. These rocks are mostly weathered by mechanical process. Mechanical means by the wind or by water, etc. Okay, running water and all. So chemical weathering does not take place, but mechanical processes weathers these rocks. Water can percolate only along the joints of cracks. If there are no cracks found in the rocks, water cannot percolate. But if a crack occurs, then from those cracks water can easily percolate in them. Most of the igneous rocks consist of silicate minerals. Okay, so that is why these rocks are very precious to us. Okay, as we can see the example over here, how much of our granite is exported to various countries like Australia. Okay, why? Because of the preciousness, right? So the next rock that we are going to discuss today is sedimentary rocks. This is the second to be formed. Sedimentary rocks are actually formed when the igneous rocks break into smaller pieces and they are deposited either in the bed plains, that means of the rivers, lakes, or either in the deep beds. Then the overlapping layers, they form pressure upon them, and due to this pressure the sedimentary rocks are formed. Now the word sedimentary, it has been derived from the Latin word sedimentus, which means settling down, and the process of weathering and erosion constantly break the igneous rocks and the other rocks into smaller fragments of all shapes and sizes, and these agents provide the raw material needed to form the sedimentary rock. Now these broken rocks materials is carried away by the running water, either the glaciers, wind, sea waves, etc. Means these are all the agents, and deposit it in the either in the water bodies or in the depressions. Depression means large pits which are found on the earth, yani bade gatte. Okay, so these are deposited either in the river beds or in the depression, and the deposited materials are called sediments. In your chemistry lab you must have studied about sediments. Separately the residues. Okay, these are called the sediments, and these sediments are generally deposited in horizontal layers. That means they are not standing, they are all lying. So this is deposited in horizontal layers. Thus the sedimentary rocks are also called the stratified rocks. Remember, a second name for sedimentary rocks is the stratified rock. Now when several layers of sediments are regularly deposited over a long period of time, one upon the other, this pressure exerted from the upper layer onto the lower layer, okay, it hardens and compacts the rocks, and this sediments also get cemented to form the sedimentary rocks. So the sediments are actually provided by original igneous or other types of rocks. Thus the sedimentary rocks are also called the secondary rocks, means they are the second to be formed. As we had discussed, igneous rocks are primary rocks, sedimentary rocks are the secondary rocks. Clear? Now we can classify sedimentary rocks into various forms, means accordingly to how they are broken up. Okay. So the firstly, we classify sedimentary rocks into mechanically formed sedimentary rocks. When we talk about mechanically formed sedimentary rocks, we are talking about the pre-existing rocks are broken into fragments of different sizes by the process of weathering. Mechanical means weathering by the wind, by the waters, okay, and of the erosions. These materials are transported and deposited at suitable places by different agents like running water, you can say rivers, wind, glacier and sea waves. In this process, the lower layer come under the pressure of the upper layer, as we had discussed earlier. These are mechanically formed rocks and clastic rocks, and some of the examples of these are sandstone, conglomerates, shale, loess, siltstone, clay, etc. So these are the mechanically formed sedimentary rocks. So the next is chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Okay. That means when the disintegration of rocks is done by chemicals. by the chemical reactions, especially when water comes in contact. All chemicals react with water. In your labs you must have experienced it also. So the running water contains chemical materials in suspension. When this chemically active water comes in contact with the rocks, it is able to remove the solution materials from the rocks, and these chemical materials, after settling down, are compacted and cemented to form rocks. So the deposition generally takes place in lakes and lagoons. Okay, so these are very less found in the depressions, but mostly they are found in the lakes, riverbeds, etc. So the water evaporates and the rocks are compacted. So the main examples of such kinds of sedimentary rocks are gypsum, rock salt, dolomites. These are the main rocks formed by the chemical reactions. And basically, remember that these types of sedimentary rocks are formed in the river beds, in the lake beds. Clear? And third is the organically formed sedimentary rocks. Now, why organically formed? Because in this kind of sedimentary rock, mostly you will find fossils. That means they are plant and animal origin, right? Okay. So the organic sediments are derived from the disintegration or decomposition of plants and animals. They contain large quantities of lime. These materials, after being settled down, compacted and cemented to form organic sedimentary rock. And the main examples are like limestone, corals, chalk, etc. Now, there are three kinds of organically formed sedimentary rocks. So, based on the transporting agents such as running water, wind, glacier, ocean currents, these are all the sea waves, these are all the transporting agents. Now we talk about the organically formed sedimentary rocks. So the first is the argillaceous rocks. So these types of rocks are also called the aqueous rocks, as they are formed in water bodies. Okay. Now there is a dominance of clay in these rocks. So the argillaceous rocks are further divided into three types. That is riverine sedimentary rocks. Riverine sedimentary rocks means those are found in the river beds. Then the lacustrine sedimentary rocks. These are found in the lake beds, in the lakes. And the marine sedimentary rocks, these are found in the marines, that means in the seas and ocean beds. Okay. So these are the three types of the argillaceous rocks. Now we talk about the aeoline sedimentary rocks. Okay. Aeoline sedimentary rocks. These types of rocks are formed due to the decomposition of sand brought down by the wind. We have seen a dhulbari andhi that we call. So this is the sand which is traveled by the wind. And the existing rocks are broken by the agents of mechanical weathering in the hot and dry area especially. Right? So this results in the formation of large amounts of sand. Winds pick up the sand particles and deposit them at various places. Loess deposits is an important example of this. Okay? And these are mostly found in the depressions. Now, thirdly we speak about is the glacial sedimentary rock. So the materials which are deposited by the glaciers means all those which are on the mountain peaks, no? Like you have the Gangotri glacier, Yamunotri glacier, those are the glaciers, means barf ke dhake hue pahad that you call, those are the glaciers. Now, so these deposits are also known as moraines. Remember the word. These deposits are also called as the moraines, which are of four types. That is lateral, medial, ground and terminal moraines. Okay, these are further classified into four groups. Now finally we talk about the characteristics of the sedimentary rocks, because every rocks have their own characteristics. So when we talk about the sedimentary rocks are comparatively softer than the igneous rocks. This means they are not so hard. Okay, they can be cut easily, they can be broken down easily in comparison to that of granite and all. Okay, when you talk about sedimentary rocks, means it is, example I will give you, in your areas, all those people who are living in the old houses, no? Means old houses mean to say which were constructed some 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So in place of the cemented linters, there was one slab used, जिसे हम छत्ती बोलते हैं, है ना? This is called sandstone, and this is a kind of a sedimentary rock. Clear? Okay. Now, these rocks have layers horizontally arranged one above the other, and the raw materials from the sedimentary rock is derived from the older rock, plant and animal remains. Thus, these rocks have fossils of plants and animals. Because they are sedimentary, obviously whenever sediments deposit, maybe animal or a plant will fall in it, and it gets compressed along with it, so obviously you will find fossils in it. Also, the sedimentary rocks are found over a larger surface, that is around 75% on the earth. Sedimentary rocks are available. These rocks have been mostly formed underwater and therefore have mud cracks or marks of ripples between them. Means in these rocks you will find in between there will be cracks and mud will be filled in them. So the composition of the sedimentary rocks depends upon the nature of cementing elements and rock forming minerals. Most of the sedimentary rocks are permeable and porous. That means water can percolate into them. You have seen our water is very much required for our underground water level to rise. So like granite and all igneous rocks, they are non-porous, whereas sedimentary rocks are porous and water can percolate inside them. Then the sedimentary rocks are not crystalline and are not found in massive form, okay, such as the batholiths, laccoliths. These are some of the examples of the sedimentary rocks.